I'm making traditional strawberry jam. It involves a lot of sugar and a box of powdered fruit pectin. If you've never done this before, when you get that box of pectin home, open it up, take out the instruction booklet inside, read the recipes and the how-to, and plan to follow them exactly. For one batch of jam, clean and cap about 2 quarts of strawberries. The boxed instructions tell you how much jam you're going to make, so put enough jars plus one extra in a big pot and get them boiling and keep them that way. Put canning bands and lids in another pot, get them very hot but don't let them boil, and hold them that way as well. Mash the strawberries. It's a good idea to get them really mushed up into small pieces so there's more fruit spread throughout the jam. I like to use a potato masher. My wife complains that I use a rusty potato masher, but I figure that's good for us because it puts a little iron into our food. I told you it takes a lot of sugar. 7 cups for strawberry jam using this particular brand of fruit pectin. It's a good idea to measure that all out into a bowl that you can handle easily one-handed because you'll be adding it to hot fruit mixture later. The recipe for this brand of fruit pectin calls for 5 cups of mashed berries. I try to get a good mix of the berries and the juice. Use a fairly deep pot. Mine holds more than a gallon of liquid. The recipe also calls for a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. I just use this stuff that comes in a jar. And before I put it on the heat, I rip open the little bag of powdered fruit pectin, throw it in with the fruit, and I stir it all together before I actually start the heat. There's no reason to do that. You can put the heat on before you start stirring. Start cooking the fruit and pectin mixture on high heat. Because it's high, you got to keep stirring it the whole time. Your intent here is just to bring the stuff to a boil. That pretty much assures that the pectin will be melted and distributed all through the fruit. Once the fruit mixture is boiling, add the sugar all at once. See, I almost dropped the bowl. Keep stirring. It'll take a while, but you want to bring this back to a boil. I add about a tablespoon of butter, which supposedly keeps the foam down in the jam. I'm not convinced, but I add it anyway. Watch as the stuff heats up. It'll start to boil, and then what you do depends on the kind of stove you have. On my electric stove, I let it boil about 15 seconds, then turn the burner off, and that keeps it boiling for another 45 seconds as the burner cools down. On a gas stove, you can keep it boiling for a minute right on the heat, and then just turn off the gas. Even though the burner's been off for 40 seconds, it's keeping the jam boiling, so I have to lift it off the heat. I want just 1 minute of boiling. If there's a trick to making great jam, it's following the instructions that come in the box. I've never been disappointed by the results when I do that. After the jam cooks, there's usually foam on the surface. I corral it with a spoon, skim it off, and put it in a bowl. After it cools, it makes a great snack. I like to put a platter on the counter to catch any spills. Then I take one of the hot jars out of the boiling water, slap in a canning funnel, which you can do without, but the funnel makes it a lot easier. Then I use a measuring cup with a handle to scoop out the jam. and pour it down the side of the funnel. Trying not to splash here. I don't want to get the jam all over everything. Got to fill the jar to about a 1/2 inch from the top. Make sure the rim stays clean. If you get anything on the rim, wipe it off with a wet towel. Then put a hot lid on top of the jar and a screw band. Tighten the screw band down. They say finger tight in the instructions. To me that means tighten it up very firmly. You can usually handle the lid and the band okay, but the jar will be too hot to hold. When you run out of jam in the cook pot and the jars are full, run them for 10 minutes in a boiling water bath canner. You can just use a large pot of boiling water, put all the jars in, and boil for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes of boiling, put the jars on a towel on the counter so they cool down. When they reach a temperature where they're barely comfortable to hold, flip them over. This will mix the fruit in with the liquid, otherwise the fruit tends to float, and let them cool until they're very warm to the touch. Then turn them back over and let them finish cooling. That way you'll get the fruit distributed evenly throughout the entire jar.